Welcome back to the Delaware Way. We continue our conversation on Nepal with Margie Fishman. Margie Fishman works for the News Journal in Delaware and DelawareOnline.com, I would assume. And you got to go over to Nepal and cover the aftermath from the earthquakes. Let me ask, how does someone from the News Journal get sent over to Nepal?
It's actually a rather interesting story. We have an executive editor, David Ledford, who's very committed to having reporters cover international news when there's a local angle. So actually, one of my former colleagues, Beth Miller, got sent to Haiti back in 2010 to cover the Delaware Medical Relief Team and their efforts to help the victims of the Haiti earthquake. So when this opportunity came about, that we heard that they were actually going to go to Nepal and do a similar thing, my editor just made the commitment for myself and a videographer to join them. The first wave of volunteers, we actually went with them, stayed with them the entire week, and documented their efforts.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to be condescending with that question about Delaware, certainly at all, except that everybody's been cutting back on that kind of coverage, so it's wonderful that your newspaper is still making that kind of commitment. When you got there, any expectation of what you were going to see?
Well, I had been to India before the year before doing some independent reporting work, so I'm familiar with kind of seeing rural areas that are somewhat on the brink of destruction. And obviously I had read the coverage of Nepal, so I saw the videos and the photography, so I kind of had a general expectation of what it would be like. But there's nothing like quite going into a village and seeing everything completely leveled. I mean, it kind of blew my mind and was a real shock. You know, people kind of just people and animals both kind of living on piles of wood and under tarps, very unsanitary conditions. But I mean, what struck me the most was like the amazing generosity they showed and hospitality to the foreigners who were there to help them.
And probably to each other too. I think those tragedies bring out the best in people all of the time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, there are stories about people carrying victims of the quake to safety, about them kind of carrying them to roadsides to get doctors to work on them kind of immediately. You know, people rescuing family members and even friends in the same village during the quake. And it was just wonderful to see kind of the resilience of the human spirit in that situation.
Were you fearful at all when you were there?
I wasn't fearful until the second earthquake hit. I was actually there when the second earthquake hit.
And how big was that?
7.3 magnitude.
Wow.
It happened on my third day there. And I was actually reporting from a tent city in Bharatpur, which is a medieval city about 45 minutes from Kathmandu. And we were just actually, we took off from the medical team that day to kind of get stories about people living in the camps and how they were dealing. And so probably an hour in, we were watching this Buddhist relief organization give out rice and toiletries to the villagers nearby. And we were reporting in a tent city, a tent camp, completely, not really near any buildings, completely in an open space. And as soon as I saw the locals and the fear in their eyes, I knew that something major. Initially, I thought it was just an aftershock because I don't have much experience with earthquakes of that magnitude. But they told me while it was happening that, no, this is a big one and you better kind of brace yourself. So I remember holding on to a tent and just feeling the earth kind of rolling underneath me, and it was a very surreal experience.
How long, and it's an unfair question almost, but maybe you've heard other people talk about it, how long before Nepal recovers from this?
I've heard several years, actually. They're very concerned about the monsoon, which is supposed to come any day now. I mean, the monsoon is typical from the middle of June until the mid to end of September. And obviously, they're worried about more landslides. They're worried about the spread of disease with the monsoon.
The doctors that were just here said they're cutting off their mission for 6 weeks because of the monsoon season.
Right.
He said a lot of relief help is not coming in because of the monsoon season. So it's
Right.
not just what could happen with the monsoons, but they're not getting the help they need because of the monsoons.
Right, and we saw schools that were completely destroyed. And so, I mean, it's going to take a lot and a lot of money. I heard the most recent estimate was, I think they were saying $6.6 billion that they need to fully recover. And it should take several years. I mean, I read just yesterday that they reopened some of the town squares. Actually, where I was in Bharatpur, they reopened the Durbar Square, which housed a lot of medieval temples. But I think they did that more to kind of show people, look, we're open, we're operational, please come back, because they had a very steady tourism industry before these earthquakes happened.
I think it's going to be a while before the tourism industry comes back, just because of what people think at least is happening over there. Are you going to go back?
I'm not. There are no plans to send me back with the News Journal. I personally would like to go back after the rebuilding efforts to kind of do a before and after for myself. I would like to go back to that region to report. If any opportunity comes available, I'm willing to take any foreign opportunity for reporting. I enjoyed it immensely. It's very exhilarating as a reporter to be able to cover a situation like that on the ground.
Well, if you do come back here, it was nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for coming in. Margie Fishman, who is a reporter from the News Journal, the international reporter for the News Journal. We'll be right back.